Now this technique is another great example that ideas are everywhere. You just have to look around and you can be inspired by almost anything you see. I was at a friend's house recently and I noticed on their living room wall they had a lamp sitting next to the wall, and it was had a very interesting lampshade on it, and it was projecting this very interesting light pattern on the wall. And I thought that was very, very interesting, and just immediately thought maybe I could use it in Photoshop for something. So I quickly took my camera. I didn't have my camera with me, so I actually took my phone out. I took my iPhone out and took a picture of it. And here it is. And it's not the best detail in the world, but that doesn't matter. It's a pattern or a texture. We can play around with it, even if it's in low res, to get some interesting effects. So what I'm going to do here is I want to go ahead and extract that light pattern from this background. And so if I go in here into my channels, and I can toggle through each one, and I can see that the blue one has the most contrast to my background. So we're going to go ahead and use that channel. So let's go ahead and take the channel and go ahead and make a duplicate of it. Just drag it to the new channel icon there. There we go. And now I want to increase the contrast here a little bit by making a levels adjustment. So we'll go into the image menu, go down to adjustments, and choose levels. And inside here, I'm going to go ahead and boost up the contrast. I want to darken up more of the background area to isolate more of the effect to the graphic. Very much like that. I want to maintain a fair amount of the texture. Some of that texture is the actual drywall texture that got picked up in the image, and that actually works. So I'm going to go ahead and try and maintain a little bit of that as well. So once that's level adjustments made, we'll go ahead and click OK. Now I'm going to go and grab my brush tool here in the toolbar, and up here in the options bar, I'm going to set the blend mode of this brush to overlay. Painting with black, I'm going to go ahead and take care of the small fragmented light areas around the edge here. There we go. Just kind of blackening out certain areas of it so we can isolate it more in the center here. There it is. So that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this around, and you can see we're getting an interesting pattern. Already I'm thinking, hey, this could be a cool light effect. It almost looks like it could be waves on water. It could be almost anything if we just play around with a few more effects in Photoshop. But now it is processed as an alpha channel, so I'm going to go ahead and load this channel as a selection. I'm just going to command click right on the layer, and it loads as an active selection. Or, in fact, if you don't do that, you can just go back and reactivate your RGB channels, go back to the layers, and create a new blank layer, and then simply go under the select menu and go to load selection. Here we're going to use the blue copy we just processed, loading it as a new selection. Go ahead and click OK, and there it is. So now with the selection active on my new blank layer, I'm going to press Shift Delete, or Shift Backspace if you're on Windows. We're going to fill with white, normal, 100%, OK, and there it is. So now that pattern is isolated on its own layer. So now what I'm going to do is take that into another document and process it to make it a design element. So I'm going to take this and drag it up to the title bar of this other document I have here, and it's simply a blue or a black and blue background, not a background. It's a background graphic that I've created, just a simple radial gradient going from blue to black, and we're going to scale this graphic in here and do some rather interesting things with this. So I've got it in place. I'm going to go ahead and make a duplicate of that layer, brightens it up, but I'm going to go in here into the edit menu, go to transform, and choose flip horizontal. And just slide this over a little bit, and you can see I'm getting a rather interesting kind of pattern that's starting to emerge here. It's a symmetrical pattern here. So if I'm going to go ahead and merge these two layers together, just press Command or Control E, and let's go ahead and center this graphic in the middle here. So we're getting something pretty interesting here. In fact, what I'm going to do is actually rotate this like this and see what kind of interesting things we can do here. I'm actually going to slide this over this way. Let's make a duplicate of this layer once again. And again, I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal, and get this effect over here. So now we're starting to get something pretty interesting. Now I'm going to go ahead and change the blend mode of each of these layers. Let's try, actually no, let's go ahead and merge them together and then change the blend mode to something like overlay. And look at the result we're getting there. We're getting a very interesting symmetrical pattern. It's built from that single pattern we extracted from the light that was shining on the wall. And now it's become something much more abstract and more interesting. If I double up on the layer, again, in overlay mode, it's going to make some of those areas a little brighter and a little bit more intense. I can make another duplicate. And again, I can scale this one disproportionately. And I'm scaling it disproportionately from the center. So if you hold down just the Option key, it'll scale it around the center target, and I can get a more centralized element here. There we go. So it's got a really kind of energized look to it. It's looking really cool. It's a very stylized kind of abstract background, and it can certainly be part of a title graphic, for instance. Maybe this is going to be a movie or a TV show called Delirium. In fact, we need to add some layer styling to this text here. Let's add an outer glow. Set it to white, increase the size here a little bit. And let's change the blend mode of this outer glow to overlay. See how it interacts with the background elements there. Now, I like that element, or how it's interacting with there, but it does tend to almost make the text a little bit less readable than I'd like it to. So let's add a drop shadow, but process it a little bit differently. Let's change the color of that drop shadow. I'm just going to click right on that color swatch next to multiply, and let's sample the blue, the darker blue in our background image here. And let's change the blend mode of this to overlay, and you can see it's giving me a more interesting blend with that. You can try other blend modes. You can try color burn. Let's see what multiply does. Multiply actually doesn't look too bad. It's giving me a little bit of a separation, so we're maintaining that outer glow effect, giving me a little bit of glow around the text, but we also have a drop shadow, which makes the text a little bit more readable, giving us a little bit more depth in there. But the real point is that background element. So we started with one simple element, which was that channel in the original image. This image right here, which started as a simple snapshot I took with my phone, holding it next to the wall with this lampshade on there, and then ultimately turning it into an interesting design element that looks really cool in the finished layout.